Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are getting right to the core of what makes us tick by exploring the fascinating worlds of personality and intelligence. Now, these two ideas are really deeply connected, but to get a good handle on them, we've got to look at them one by one. So today, we're going to build a really strong foundation in understanding personality, and then we'll see how that connects to the bigger picture of intelligence. So let's dive in with a question that people have been wrestling with forever. What actually makes you, you? I mean, are you the result of some hidden desires you don't even know about? Or maybe you're just a collection of behaviors you've learned over time? Or is your personality a set of core traits you were just born with? Well, the answers from psychology are about as different as we all are. And to guide us on this journey, we're going straight to the source. We're digging into the academic material on personality from Block 4 of the psychology course from IGNO, the People's University. We're going to see exactly how the experts map out the human character. Okay, so to get the full picture, here's our game plan. We'll start with what the word personality even means. Then, we're going to take a deep dive into Freud's hidden world. After that, we'll look at other theories basically reacted against him, focusing on either what we can see or what we can become. And finally, we'll land on the modern way of just mapping out your core traits. All right, so first things first. What do psychologists actually mean when they say personality? It's a word we throw around all the time, right? But in this field, it has a very specific and pretty important meaning. So the word itself comes from persona, which were the masks that actors in ancient times wore on stage. But in psychology, it's the total opposite of a mask. It's the real deal. It's that stable, consistent pattern of thinking, feeling, and acting that makes you different from everyone else. You know, think about that one friend who's just always cheerful, no matter what's going on. That consistency, that's a big piece of their personality. But here's a really crucial modern twist. Your personality isn't just about what's going on inside of you. There's this idea called the interactionist perspective, and it argues that how you behave is this, well, it's like a constant dance between your inner traits and whatever situation you're in. For instance, someone who's super introverted might be really quiet at a huge party, but with a couple of close friends, they might be the funniest, most talkative person in the room. See, it's the person and the situation working together. Okay, let's shift gears and dive into our first major theory. And we have to start with the father of psychoanalysis himself, Sigmund Freud. His whole idea was that the real things driving our personality are these powerful forces that are completely hidden from us, deep in our minds. Freud had this incredible analogy for the mind. He said it was like an iceberg. The little tip that you can see sticking out of the water, that's your conscious mind. It's what you're thinking about right this second. Just below the surface is the preconscious, memories you could pull up if you wanted to. But the biggest, most powerful part, the part that's way down deep, that's the unconscious. And for Freud, that was a turbulent sea of hidden desires and forgotten memories that's really running the whole show. And this iceberg image really nails it. It shows just how much of what makes us us is happening below the surface, at least according to Freud. It's in this huge unconscious space that the real drama happens. And all that conflict creates anxiety, so our minds come up with these clever defense mechanisms, like denial, to cope with it all. So what's all the conflict about? Well, imagine you have 3 characters in your head. First, there's the id. It's your primal instinct, all about pleasure. It sees a cake and screams, "I want it now." Then you've got the superego. That's your moral compass, wagging its finger and saying, "You can't just take that, it's wrong." And stuck right in the middle is the ego, the practical negotiator that says, okay, let's just go buy a slice. Freud believed this constant inner battle, which starts way back in our childhood, is what shapes our adult personality. Now, his followers, folks like Jung and Adler, they'd later take these ideas and run with them in all sorts of new directions. But you know what? Not everyone was sold on Freud's dark, mysterious, and kinda untestable world of the unconscious. In fact, a whole new way of thinking popped up that went in the complete opposite direction. They basically said if you can't see it and you can't measure it, it doesn't count. And that's the behaviorist view, right there. John B. Watson's famous quote pretty much sums it up. He, along with B.F. Skinner, believed that personality isn't some deep, hidden thing. Nope, it's just a bunch of habits you've learned over time. For them, you are what you've been rewarded for doing and what you've been punished for. Your inner thoughts, an irrelevant black box. All that matters is what you actually do. So now you have these 2 totally different camps, right? Freud's dark, hidden conflicts and the behaviorists who say we're just shaped by our environment. Then a third major force came along, and they basically looked at the other 2 and said,
You're both missing the point. Humanism rejected Freud's pessimism and the behaviorist idea that we're basically robots. Instead, they put our free will and our potential for growth right at the center of everything.
Humanists like Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow had a much more optimistic view. They believed we all have this built-in drive to self-actualize, to become the best possible versions of ourselves. Maslow even mapped it out in his famous hierarchy of needs. Rogers said that to get there, we need congruence. That's when the person you actually are lines up with the person you want to be. And what helps us grow? Getting unconditional positive regard, which just means being loved and accepted for who you truly are, not for who someone else thinks you should be.
Okay, our final stop on this tour isn't really about why you are the way you are. It's all about describing what you are like. This is the whole goal of trait theories, to basically create a map of the fundamental building blocks of personality.
A guy named Gordon Allport was a real pioneer here, and he came up with a kind of hierarchy. So at the very top are cardinal traits. These are super rare. It's like one single trait that basically defines a person's entire life. Then you have central traits. These are the 5 to 10 words you'd probably use to describe a good friend, like kind, funny, anxious. And at the bottom are secondary traits, which only pop up in certain situations, like getting nervous before giving a speech. Allport's work really paved the way for others, like Cattell, who later identified 16 key personality factors. So after decades and decades of research, psychologists started to see a pattern. They've pretty much boiled all of these ideas down and settled on 5 really fundamental dimensions that can describe the vast majority of human personality. You've probably heard of it. It's famously known as the Big Five. And there's a handy acronym to remember them: OCEAN. O is for openness. How curious and creative are you? C is for conscientiousness. Are you organized and disciplined? E is for extroversion. Do you get your energy from being around other people? A is for agreeableness. How cooperative and trusting are you? And N is for neuroticism, which is really about emotional stability. The idea here is that your unique personality is just your specific mix on each of these 5 scales. Now, it's really important to remember that these theories we've talked about are mostly from the West. It's fascinating to look at things from a different angle, like the ancient Indian philosophy that describes personality through 3 gunas, or essential qualities. You have the sattvic quality, which is all about balance and harmony. Then there's the rajasic quality, which is about passion and ambition. And finally, the tamasic quality, which relates to things like inertia and negativity. It just goes to show how different cultures have come up with their own unique ways to understand what it means to be human. So, after that whirlwind tour, let's bring it back to you. Which one of these ideas really clicks for you? Do you feel like you're driven by those unconscious forces Freud talked about, or shaped by your environment? Are you striving to become your best self, or are you just a unique combination of core traits? And this is where personality really starts to link up with that other big idea, intelligence. Personality is about how you typically behave, while intelligence is about your potential to learn and solve problems. And that brings us to the final, really provocative question. Just like with intelligence, where we argue about nature versus nurture, the ultimate question for personality is this: how much of it is set in stone? Now that you have these different ways of looking at it, do you think you actually have the power to redraw the map of who you are? The answer to that, well, that might be the most personal discovery you can make.